Welcome into the GT Counter podcast. My name is Tyler. We got the squad here tonight, including Grayson's terrible Wi-Fi. Grayson, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, Ed? It's just another. Am I lagging still, boys?
You're doing good, man.
That's
You're doing good. Keep
That's
going.
awesome.
Keep going.
Hey, well, I'm just letting you guys know I live out in the middle of nowhere, so if I ever talk over Reid or Tyler, it's probably because I didn't hear them talk. We're still working through some minor adjustments out here. Apparently, my AT&T fiber ain't worth anything, so I'll call AT&T on the phone later and get some stuff figured out. Point being made, college football was great this weekend. I'm excited for it to be back. And Reid, my dad did have a good car ride home on Sunday, and he wanted me to let you know.
Well, Grayson, I'm happy to hear. Good for your Irish. Happy that he had a nice, happy drive home with a big smile on his face, I'm sure. It was a good win. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later, but glad to hear you've upgraded from Cricket Mobile. Maybe you need to get the $80 package from AT&T, considering you're out in the sticks. But we're just glad to hear. We're just glad you're here, man. Good to see you. We cannot hear Edsel. We have lost the.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Sorry, I was on mute. Hey, we're still new to this. We've got bad internet, and we've got a host who doesn't know how to operate a microphone. So we're off to a good start. But we've got a loaded slate here. We've got week 1 games to talk. We've got a little bit of week 2, and then we'll just hang out for a little bit, shoot the breeze, and watch Florida State get dominated by BC. So good one tonight. Let's go ahead and hop right into this. First game I wanted to hit on the agenda here is going to be UGA and Clemson. This is a game that, Reid, you had pinned down 34-3. Clemson fought there for, I don't know, 6. I don't know where I'm going. 6, maybe 6 drives potentially, but 2.5 quarters, it was kind of competitive, and then from there the wheels kind of fell off the car. But talk me through that one. Obviously, the first half was pretty good for competitive sake, but Georgia is kind of elite.
The old saying, "We had them in the first half," was true with Clemson, which is exactly why I took them plus 7.5. I had a feeling that might be the case, and the wheels eventually unraveled very quickly. But what we did learn is that Georgia is still the best team in college football until proven otherwise. And at this rate, it might not even be close. So they absolutely just manhandled Clemson. Clemson was able to, play good defense in the first half. Kind of felt like, Georgia was still, feeling out their new offense, some of the pieces that they have there. Took them a little bit of time, and, Clemson is no slouch defensively, as we know. But second half was an absolute disaster, and Georgia is still the top dog. It looks like they have aliens on the field. They are just better. They passed the eye test for sure of anybody that I've seen this year. I know it's only week 1, but I just don't see a way they aren't maybe the most talented team. Not saying they won't lose a game, and they play a tough schedule, but they have a bunch of freaks on that roster, and it was in full display on Saturday.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think they do have probably roster-wise the best roster in college football. I don't think that's probably a question for anybody. Cade Klubnik looked pretty awful in this game, to say it nicely. This Clemson defense, I think, kind of rolled over and laid down in the second half. They just kind of decided that this offense wasn't actually going to be competitive, wasn't going to score at all. So they just kind of laid down in the second half and said no can do, and it is what it is. Clemson's offense only got past into Georgia territory twice in the first half. So that probably leads to a lot of this Clemson defense not being very happy with the situation, laying down in the second half and just not playing anymore. One thing I do want to talk about, I saw a video surface on Twitter where people were talking about how Clemson's offensive line doesn't pick up club. It's lagging bad. It's brutal.
There you go. Now
Can you hear
back.
me, Ed?
Yeah, we got you.
Did you see that? Did you see the video surface on Twitter where they're talking about the offensive line not picking up Cade Klubnik after he gets smoke showed?
I did. Obviously, that is a bit concerning. It's never good whenever you can't get the quarterback picked up. I mean, we heard rumors of it last year with Junkins at Ole Miss, but it's one thing when it's the running back. I mean, it's still not good, but when it's the quarterback, you're not going to pick up. Yeah, concerning. And to your point, Grayson, in the first quarter, they kind of played okay offensively. Clemson did, but the second quarter they gained 15 total yards of offense. It's kind of a miracle that they were even in that game, considering Georgia like 6x them in yards. They had over 115 yards of offense in that quarter. And then in the second half, it was just a complete beat down there. So I think the more talented team certainly won. I guess there was a little bit of a dialogue about the portal and Clemson's lack of using it. I know there was a Dabo quote after the game about how, he said basically people are going to write whatever they want and it doesn't bother him too much. I don't know. I don't know if this is game necessarily to talk about the portal hurting Clemson because Georgia is just far more talented than just about anybody. But it is interesting how that was kind of a narrative that came out of this one. Grayson, I don't know if you had any thoughts about Clemson's portal use as a whole or if that even matters in terms of this game.
I think Clemson should have hopped into the portal and probably find a new quarterback. I mean, they got a guy back there that is not qualified to be doing the job that he's doing at this school. I mean, he is dragging Clemson through the dirt. I don't think having a new quarterback, like if Clemson has Cam Ward in this game, I still don't think they win. I don't think it matters. I think Georgia still manhandles them and outplays them man to man. But I still think in my head, like, Clemson would be far more competitive if they had a quarterback that wasn't Cade Klubnik. So that's just where I'm at on that.
Yeah, that's fair. Reid, did you have any thoughts on Clemson and kind of as a whole?
I mean, they've kind of been what we've thought they have been in the last couple of years. I think they're a solid team, a good team. It doesn't really get much elevated, or I guess you can't really elevate them just because of the talent discrepancy. They're never going to be able to beat a team like Georgia. They gave it their best shot in the first half and didn't score a single point. So it's not great for them offensively right now. Obviously Georgia's really good defensively, but Klubnik hasn't been what they were hoping for when they moved off of DJU, and it's just been a little bit tougher than I think they would have thought and hoped. But that's what the portal's for. It's like you miss on a recruit that you think is gonna be really good, supplement with the portal, and they refuse to do that. So they're kind of gonna have to live with the results of they are who they are, and that's just what it's gonna have to be. So to me, what they are is a 9-win team, and that's great. But I mean, it's if they want to reach the next level like they used to when they were winning national championships, I think they're gonna have to dip in the portal for sure.
Yeah, and as far as Georgia's concerned, they are absolutely still that team. They are still probably the best team in the country. I don't think that's up for debate as of now. Obviously, they play a ridiculously hard schedule, and things are subject to change. But as far as what we saw this weekend, I think Georgia's splattering there is probably the most impressive thing I saw.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would totally agree with you there.
Anything else from this game before we keep it pushing on down the road to one I know Reid is going to be thrilled to talk about here in Miami and Florida. Let's just hop right into it. Miami gets the win 41-17 in a game that was close until it wasn't. I mean, you look at the stats at the end of the game, and Miami had 530 yards of offense compared to Florida's 261, so doubled them up. Mertz for Florida at quarterback, 11 of 20 for 91. And then you look at Cam Ward, 26 of 35 for 385 and 3 tutters. Just a complete splattering on that side of the ball. Miami's defense held Florida in check really, really well. Got to the quarterback, held Florida to 1 of 9 on third down. Miami went 5 of 10. And only 2 penalties for a Mario Cristobal coach team, I think, is awfully impressive for their standards. So, I mean, it was kind of everything you'd want Miami to look like and everything that we feared Florida could look like. Reid, what did you think about your Hurricanes? Since I know you're big on the Canes this year.
They were who I thought they were. Cam Ward, nobody knew who Cam Ward was, or they maybe knew who he was, but they didn't get to watch him just because they're playing on the West Coast and, Pac-12 after dark. He's playing half his games at, midnight on, Eastern time zone. And the guy lit up college football last year, but he, happened to play for Washington State, who didn't garner much national attention. But he was really good. And I'm shocked that, people were, he tested the NFL waters a little bit. He was, late to really decide where he was going to go. Ended up at Miami. And once that happened, they already have the running back from Oregon State, who, ideally I'd like to see a little bit more from in Martinez. But that's nitpicking here. It was a blowout. It was, exactly what I would have expected to happen. I thought Florida was bad. Turns out they're maybe worse than I thought. I thought they'd maybe make this a little bit more competitive. But Graham Mertz at quarterback is not going to get the job done. At best, he's a game manager, but this roster is nowhere near talented enough to really complement any of that. So it's just a huge disaster. They already play the hardest schedule in the country this year. And, this line was at 2.5, which felt weird to me. I would have at least expected 6.5, anywhere even above that. And it wasn't. So, yeah, it went down just about as I expected. I've been huge on the Hurricanes all year, and Kim Ward will finally get some recognition here. And I don't think they're done. I think Miami is the top of the I don't even know what you want to say about the ACC, but I think they're at the top of it, and I don't even know if it's close at this point.
Best of the worst potentially is what I would go with, Grayson.
Yeah, I think that Miami's going to come out and straight up blow out every team that they play in the ACC. They should be favored in every single game the rest of the year. I think they could easily pull off the perfect 12-win season rolling into the playoffs. Because I just don't think anybody's going to be in the same class as them in the ACC. From what I've seen, the ACC is probably as bad as it gets. Thought Virginia Tech would be good. Thought Florida State would be good. Thought NC State would be good. Don't know if any of them are good. We definitely know Florida State's not good. That's for sure. And VT's loss this weekend that's as rough as it gets. But yeah, I think they should be favored in just about every single game. My big struggle here in this game is that Florida is absolutely terrible. And, Billy Napier prides himself on being able to develop quarterbacks. And Graham Mertz looks like he's gotten worse from last year to this year. And that dude couldn't have hit water with a football if he fell out of a boat. It was absolutely unbelievable, his performance. Would not be surprised if we saw a Billy Napier fire about week 8 of the season. He's getting out the door after this year. There's no way the Florida Boosters are going to be able to handle this.
Yeah, see, I was wondering if DJ Lagway was going to be the guy to try to save his job if they threw him in there instead of Mertz. And in fairness, whenever he was in, they did have a little bit more of a pulse, but it still wasn't great. That's just kind of going to be what it is with a true freshman at quarterback. Like he's going to be what he is when he's a true freshman, but even that is still probably better than whatever Mertz can give you. So I don't know. I don't think there needs to be a huge long discussion about Florida here. I think we're all kind of well aware that they're just going to be kind of buns, which is, it definitely is what it is. But the man, Cam Ward obviously looked excellent. Their defense played excellent. The receivers, they've got dudes out there with Restrepo, things of that nature. And then you dive into the stats. I mean, 530 yards of offense, 145 on the ground. Damian Martinez averaged over 4 yards a carry. Cam Ward didn't really even have to do too much on the ground, only 3 attempts. So kept his rushes in check. Restrepo with 7 for over 100. And then you got Arroyo with 4 for 90. So they got a lot of playmakers out there, man. And I still don't have complete faith in Mario. I don't have any faith in Mario, actually. In a close game, I don't think he can manage his way through it. But in a game like this, where it was, the talent just overwhelmed, pretty clearly that they've got something going there.
And I think the biggest thing to look at is, you take a look at their schedule, like Grayson mentioned. They do not play, I know this may or may not mean anything right now, but the only ranked team on their schedule, the rest of the year from right now is Florida State, who, at that point, looking at how things are going right now, may not be ranked after this week. But yeah, besides that, and they play them at home for what it's worth. So they will very likely be favored at every single one of these games the rest of the year. And I don't even know if they'll be close. I think they'll be, double digits in a lot of them. So yeah, they have everything in front of them. And what we probably expect likely now is to, win the ACC and be a top 4 seed in the playoff. But yeah, this team is scary. If Cam Ward can, continue to play this well, I don't see any reason why, they don't go undefeated.
Yeah. I love it. I'm thinking the same exact thing. So
yeah, I tend to agree. Grayson, it's time for you to gloat for everyone here. Notre Dame 23, Texas A&M 13 down there in College Station. Notre Dame outgames Texas A&M 356 to 246, holds Connor Wegman to just 100 yards passing on 12 of 30. So not good there. A&M was able to rush it for 146, but Notre Dame ran for 198 yards, 11 penalties for 99 yards for Notre Dame, which is obviously not great, and only 2 of 12 on third down, and they still win the game by 10 points. So, Grayson, talk me through it, Doug.
Texas A&M early in this game loses 2 of their offensive linemen. They go down in the first quarter. Kind of even the playing field as Notre Dame lost 2 guys in camp. So kind of evens the playing field there. I thought Texas A&M's quarterback, Wegman, played pretty atrocious. I don't think it helps that Notre Dame has just a really, really good secondary and that their receivers weren't getting much separation. But Wegman overthrowing receivers by 5 yards is not helping that cause on offense whatsoever. I thought Riley Leonard played really, really good in his debut. Playing in that environment, 108,000 people in the stands, 4th largest attendance in Kyle Field history. I thought that he played really, really well for what he is. I mean, he ran the ball really well. He started off the game a little bit, not great, had a couple of missed throws, but kind of settled in that second half and kind of just dominated, per se. And I told you guys, I mean, last week on the pod, I said, if we can make it out of the first half in a close game with them, we will win the game. And it seemed that was what it was. Notre Dame's offensive line started leaning on Texas A&M's really good defensive front in the second half. And that kind of is the flip in this game there, is that offensive line kind of came to their own in the second half and kind of weared on that really, really good Texas A&M defensive line and let Jeremiah Love, I mean, he ran all over him in the second half. So, but my biggest problem in this game is it's the same old Notre Dame, same old stupid stuff, procedural penalties. calling timeouts in the second half in the beginning that don't need to be called. Um, it's just stuff like that where it's like, what is it a Marcus Freeman problem? Is it the atmosphere was so overwhelming that we couldn't figure out when they were going to snap the ball? Like, why are we dropping off sides so much? It was pretty rough procedural penalty wise. So not ideal.
A lot of jumping, which I guess is to be expected when you've got, 5 dudes with 6 combined starts heading into one of the toughest places to play. But even your defensive line was a little jumpy, which I mean, that's a really good group. I wouldn't expect them to make kind of those. I mean, those were pretty awful procedural penalties, like you said. So, I mean, I don't think those will be repeated throughout. The entire season, but I will give credit to especially your backs. There in the second half when Notre Dame was able to extend here, they were down 13-6, and then into the game on what is that 17-0 run. Then it felt like your backs were able to make the guy miss at the second level. A couple of the biggest plays in this game were runs by Notre Dame in which they were able to break tackles, get out in space, and get big explosive runs. So really impressed by the Notre Dame running backs. Not very impressed by the quarterback play out of Riley Leonard, but I wasn't super impressed with him at Duke either. So, I mean, he just kind of is going to be what he is, and he can drive the bus just fine. But when you've got complementary pieces like those running backs, and if the offensive line can continue to develop, you can lean on that as well as your excellent defense, and you can probably survive the year, I would say, pretty well. I mean, at this point, I believe ESPN showed a graphic where their little computer, like Notre Dame's a favorite in every game remaining, and the only game below, I think, 70% of Notre Dame's chances to win is their game at USC to end the year. So, I mean, if they take care of their business here, the playoffs should be no problem.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. One other thing that I really liked is I think Notre Dame finally has some receivers that aren't half bad. Bo Collins looked really good. Greenhouse looked really good. Um, for what it is, I know it's the first game of the season and it's early. But those receivers looked really good. I was kind of surprised that, Notre Dame for the first time ever was kind of feeding wideouts when they threw the ball. There wasn't a whole lot of activity to the tight end Evans in this game, like at all. And that's usually, Notre Dame's kind of bread and butter thing, run the ball, throw the ball to the tight end, play like Iowa and play good defense. So a little bit of interesting there.
Reid, what'd you have on this game?
Yeah, I got to watch a little bit of it. It does kind of feel like the same old Notre Dame, maybe just a better version of it. Same stylistically. Riley Leonard, it kind of feels like he fits the mold of a Notre Dame quarterback, for better or for worse. They may very well go undefeated and lock up that 5 seed in the college football playoff, but it just feels like a very different level from watching Georgia play. And maybe you can agree on that or disagree, but just from a talent perspective, it feels like they played their brand of ball well, but at some point, I think they're going to need a difference maker at quarterback. I'm not sure Riley Leonard is that guy. Kind of feels like he's a good complementary piece. He's athletic enough; he can make some throws, which is great. But when it comes down to it, is he going to will this team to win a football game? I'm not sure. The trenches, the run game was good. A&M is no slouch defensively at all. So it was a good, impressive effort, but yeah, I'm not sure that's, the best test as of right now in terms of, what the playoff might look like. So still questions that need to be answered, I think, and we may not get an answer in the regular season. And unfortunately, like, may have to be a hard realization in the playoff. But who could say it's a long time from now? This was only week 1, and these guys can improve, and very well could be wrong. And if they're sitting at the 5 seed, I think they'd be really happy about what's going on. But to me, it feels like there's still a little bit of a talent deficit, especially on offense and mostly at quarterback. I think Leonard's a good piece, but to really take them to the next level, I think they're missing just a little bit more.
I could see that. I think that Leonard will, he'll fill more into his shoes later on in the year. I think that it's his debut game. You couldn't expect him to blow the socks off. He's not really air the ball out and wow you with his arm kind of quarterback. So leading the team in rushing for him in his first game, I thought was a little bit impressive, especially playing against a Texas A&M team that has that outstanding of a defensive front. So
I'd rather have him than Wegman. I'll tell you that.
Yes, 100%. Do I think that we are national championship contenders right now? Absolutely not. I think I need to see more from this team. So, but I would agree with you. I think Georgia looked significantly better than us in their first game. But there's a lot of season left. There's a lot of season left, and you don't know who's going to get hurt in what game, and there's a lot of game left. So,
Reid, would you like to apologize for your boy Colin Klein?
Yeah, that was something. He was getting yelled at for not running the ball, and it was chaotic and things get crazy at Carl Allen Field. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's game one. I've never been a Wegman guy. I actually liked Max Johnson better than Wegman last year, which is saying something. Also, shout out to our guy Max Johnson. Hope you get healthy. RIP there. But yeah, it's not. It wasn't a good look. I'd like to get their guy in there first. Somebody in their recruiting class. But yeah, especially for week one in such a massive game. Not a great look.
It just looks, I don't know. It didn't even look as good as it did at its best at K-State. Like, some of the play calls just confused me. A lot of the things that they did, I mean, I don't think they utilized Wegman to the best of what he does, which I don't think Wegman is a great fit for Klein's system. That was my concern with A&M. But I just don't think they would go to the number 2 right now, as bad as he was. And then you'll have it was circulating around the A&M message boards that Wegman had the flu, that he was sick, and therefore, didn't play his best. Obviously just excuse making at this point, but it very clearly was not a good offensive performance. You can cut it any way you want. 12 to 30 for 100 yards is dreadful.
Yeah, it just kind of feels like a clash stylistically of what they want to do. And again, I've never been a Wegman guy. I know he was a great recruit, and was he the number 1 recruit or number 2 guy? Somewhere in that list.
He was the number 3 quarterback, and number 2, funny enough, was Cade Klubnik.
Yeah, so not the best class in general, but yeah, I don't think he is a great fit for what they have there. It's kind of hard when you have a 5-star at quarterback, and it's like you kind of have to play him, even though it may not fit, I guess, what you do. So, it's kind of a head game of, do you stick with what you want to do offensively, or do you, try to build to the pieces that you have, and complement them a little bit more. Was maybe in between, which might be the worst spot to be, I guess, in that. So I guess not a great performance. Again, it's only week 1. And I do think that they got the right guys there at the coaching staff. Just not sure they have the personnel yet to really get to where they want to go.
Let's keep this train rolling here. Gray, congrats to your Irish. Big one against this week against Northern Illinois. Got to follow up your wins with wins here.
Yeah, we hopefully come out and perform. We're really good at taking a game at home against a bad team and losing. Marshall like 2 years ago. So
I was about to say, from the producers who brought you losing to Marshall at home, we bring you Northern Iowa.
It'll be something. It'll be something. We'll see. Hopefully we don't come out sleepy. It's a good thing though. We're okay because we played Ohio State or somebody really good the week after. So there's no sleepy points because we don't play anybody good the week after. So we're good. Nothing to game plan for.
There you go. One focus and one focus only.
Bingo.
Let's go to Sunday night's game. We had LSU and USC in Vegas. USC gets the win 27-20. What a weird kind of game this was. Lincoln Riley engaging in all sorts of point shaving and bad clock management, awful play calling. And then at the end, he somehow finds his way to a 27-20 win over Brian Kelly, who was so mad after a game he punched a table, leading a screenshot to where he punched the table, had a mean look on his face, and the water bottle, because he punched the table, they took the picture at the time. The water bottle is floating in the air, which is one of my favorite screenshots I've ever got. You, of course, had the rule of cool catch in the first half there by USC's receiver there on the left side, which led to a touchdown drive to take the lead. And then at the end of the game, you had at one point LSU up 17-13. USC drives down, takes the touchdown lead, goes up 20-17. LSU kicks a field goal with, I believe, 3 minutes left to tie it at 20. And then USC goes down to take the win. I couldn't tell if LSU was trying to let them score on a run or if they just played so bad of defense that they quite literally allowed a 40-yard touchdown run with 8 seconds left. I mean, I guess only their players and coaches will be able to answer that one. But yeah, Brian Kelly was big fake mad. And of course, he did what he always does, Grayson, as you're very well aware. He took that blame that should absolutely go on his shoulders, and he pushed it somewhere else for somebody else to deal with.
Classic big game Brian moment right there. The LSU secondary was pretty terrible, man. I mean, I don't know if we expected better, but they were as bad as we thought they would be. They allowed Miller Moss to pass for 10 plus yards per attempt. Does anybody know how many quarterbacks threw for 10 plus yards per attempt in a game last year? Anybody? It only happened
3.
one time. No, it only happened one time.
Who was
it? Jaden Daniels threw for 10 plus yards. Jaden Daniels. Threw for 10 plus yards per attempt. So thanks, Big Game Brian, for allowing Miller Moss to have a Heisman performance out there on the field on Sunday. That's excellent by him. Only thing better than LSU losing is that LSU has now lost 5 straight home openers to a ranked team, and they get to go next year and play Clemson in their first game. So Brian better figure out how to schedule Florida A&M or something and change that schedule around.
Oh, Brian Kelly versus Dabo. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to sign up for that one. It's going to be, pardon my language, it's going to be a bitch off. They're both just going to be mega whiny. I cannot wait for that one. I've got that date circled on my calendar already.
That's going to be a hard watch, I think, for all parties involved. I think really that game in general was something that, kind of felt like 2 even teams. I thought both of Battle of the Mids. You're correct, Cole. It was Battle of the Mids there. But I thought that that game had 2 high-powered offenses. It should have been, and it just wasn't. And I think a lot of that had to do with the coaching. I thought it was really bad on both sides, honestly. Lincoln Riley, it felt like the whole game, he would try to establish the run, and it's like, buddy, you're averaging 1.9 yards a carry. Like, let's stop, trying to establish the run here. Miller Moss is dicing everybody up right now, and you continue to try and run the football. It was weird. It was like, let the guy throw it. I know he's, maybe inexperienced or whatever, hasn't played a lot. He did not make one poor decision all night long. He was fitting balls into tight windows. Pause. And he was just efficient the entire game. Like, I was just like, what? Let the guy sling it. Like, what are we doing here? It almost felt like they were scared to make a mistake, and I'm just like, that's just not the way you should coach. I don't think it's not how you build confidence in a guy, especially when you're trying to develop him at the same rate. I didn't understand it. I think they were lucky to win the game, honestly. But Miller Moss, dude, I could not be more impressed. That is Edsall's guy. I'll give it to you. You had him on your list early on, and some of the throws that I saw honestly reminded me of Burrow. Like, it was just so accurate. Like, it was unreal. And it's not even, I hate box scores. I don't really care about completion percentage. That can be skewed. It was just some of the throws that he was making was just like, there's not a lot of guys that are going to do that. And, first time really for me seeing him. I know he played in the bowl game last year, but man, it was super impressive, and he's going to be fun to watch the rest of the year. And I think Nussmeier was, I don't think he was bad either. Maybe a little bit less. Maybe he got outplayed a little bit, but leave it to Brian Kelly to basically say, the other guy outplayed our quarterback. So that was crazy thing to say. There's a whole lot to unpack here, and I think that's just the beginning of it.
That was a wild thing for him to say after the game, where his dude literally kept them in this game, threw for over 300. I believe it was 29 of 39. Brian Kelly is a wild dude. That dude is something else. He will, from the post game quote where he was like, "I'm in favor of execution" a few years ago. I forget what game that was after. I believe it was a Florida State game when he was at Notre Dame. When they asked about the execution, and he was like, "I'm in favor of it." It's like, whoa. Yeah, he says some crazy things at pressers. And now he's developed a sweet Cajun accent since being down in Baton Rouge. So he's a complete package, man. He's Grayson, I don't know how you dealt with him.
He won just enough up there.
I thank God every day he's gone. I didn't realize how bad of a coach he was until he went over to LSU and just brought this program to its knees. I just thought Notre Dame could never be competitive in a football game because we just couldn't recruit as well as these other schools. And that just is not necessarily the case. We can recruit perfectly fine. Brian Kelly just takes a program and chops it off at the knees and puts the quarterback under center and runs 2 tight end sets every single play. And yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't.
I saw the tweet of the weekend. Somebody said, "How do you bring the least fun coach in the history of the sport to LSU, which is the most fun school?" Or something along those lines. Like LSU, they have fun, as if you haven't seen, the receiver who pulled out the John Morant after a touchdown. These guys get after it, and leave it to Brian Kelly to create just in a large amount of dysfunction. So I think that was a game LSU should have won. I think both these teams had a right to win it, but Lincoln Riley did just enough less bad, I guess you could say. So I don't think it was a well coached game. I think there are plenty of errors on both sides, but I love Miller Moss. That's all I got to say.
I'm glad he proved me right. I've been on the Miller Moss block for months at this point. I was big on him whenever he was playing in, I think it was the Holiday Bowl last year. And then he cooks Louisville. And yeah, he comes into this year, and what does he do? He cooks LSU. I mean, that's what the guy does. He's a gamer. He waited his turn. This is his 3rd year with Lincoln Riley. He's a problem, man. He's a really good passer, and he's got pretty good arm talent as well. So he's a good thrower, good passer, knows how to read the defense. He's a strong player, man. And yeah, I mean, Lincoln Riley deciding to run the ball for 2 yards a carry was obviously very, very sick, especially when I have it over and I'm just ripping my hair out as each coach takes turns doing equally ridiculous things on offense. Not good. But that's neither here nor there. So USC gets off to a big win. LSU 0-1. Doesn't get a whole lot easier for them along the way. Tough road games this year. And USC, I mean, I took their over 7. Do we think they can contend to win the Big Ten? That's my question. Do either of y'all have thoughts on that?
I'm kind of at a point where I'm uncertain because the Oregon game is really, really confusing to me still. The stat line is so skewed compared to the score. So I'm not sure where Oregon sits in my head. I thought Penn State looked really, really good, but they looked really, really good against West Virginia last year. And Ohio State looked not amazing and had a lot of lack of looking excelling. So I don't know. I'm unsure of where the Big Ten sits right now. I think USC is probably a middle of the pack team out there. I don't think that they could probably win the conference, but as a Notre Dame fan, I hope they play really, really well so we can beat them last game of the season. So I hope they do great.
Yeah, all I got to say is get ready to learn Big Ten defense, buddy, because it's not going to be whatever LSU threw out there. I know they had a coordinator change, and hopefully that was going to help. But Yeah, I don't think they have any idea what's coming. They're going to face Michigan in 2 weeks, who may not be good offensively, but defensively they are, just as good as they have been. Um, that'll be a true test, and I think it'll be fair to form an opinion after that game. But you know, I still think that it's not going to be a cakewalk. Um, I don't think they can win. I think they're maybe the at best fourth or fifth best team in the Big Ten this year. And that's not a bad thing, considering I don't think the win total was at 7.5 this year. So by no means do I think that's a knock on them. I think that's great coming into the conference for the first year and really getting your feet wet there. But good team. I think they still have a little bit to go.
It's probably fair. I guess that leads me into some of the close calls and then the upset, which I know me and Reid are both very upset about ourselves. I mean, Michigan was in a one-score game with Fresno in the fourth quarter. It was 16-10. You had Ohio State was very much fooling around with Akron, not looking impressive at all. You had, a team like Texas Tech who shows potential to be something, and then they're all of a sudden, I mean, I'll just come out and say it. They should have lost to Abilene Christian. They were second and goal at the freaking 2, and they couldn't get it in. So instead, ACU had to kick the field goal to tie the game, send it to OT. And then they went for 2 in OT, and it was an awful, awful play call. Bad kind of QB draw that just gets absolutely killed. So Texas Tech doesn't look very good. You combine that with like UCLA getting tested out on the island, which I know big Hawaii guy here, that was tough for the Brotherhood. We did not love to see that. It's just that there were some teams that looked really good and then some teams who didn't. And then that, I guess, leads into Virginia Tech getting stomped by Vandy. Diego Pavia rushed for over 100 as a quarterback. And Vanderbilt is essentially the offense of a service academy. They basically run the SNU triple option out of the shotgun. They hand it off and then they let their quarterback run it a lot. So it looks awfully familiar. It's because we've seen it before. And they cooked, man. VT wasn't ready for it, and they got drilled.
Yeah. This is the big game that was in question for me all week. What do we feel about Oregon versus Idaho? Dylan Gabriel was 41 for 49 for 380 yards and 2 touchdowns. The score just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. I know that they had 8 penalties for 60 yards, and 6 of those 8 penalties were on third down and absolute drive killers. But do we think that Oregon, based on the stat line, Oregon should have probably blown Idaho out? Is that where you guys sit at as well?
I mean, should have and did is one thing, but yeah, if you box score it, then yes, they absolutely should have. They should have won pretty easily. But I mean, there were some fourth down things that didn't go super great. Idaho got them on a trick play. But I mean, let's just call it what it is. This game was 17-14 midway through the fourth quarter. Like that's kind of shocking. And that's with Dylan Gabriel going like 41 of 49 for 380. It's kind of ridiculous. So, I mean, I would say I'm at least somewhat concerned. I don't know about how either of y'all feel about it, but I am somewhat bothered by that result.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first thing is, the box score was confusing. I'm not going to lie and say I got to watch a ton of this game. But I'd say it was more shocking than concerning. I think it's one of those things where it's like, well, didn't expect that. If you see that again, then I think there's reason to be concerned. But, for what it's worth, I think it's, working on the kinks. Idaho's a good team. Like, by no means are they at Oregon's level, but they're not like, it's not like a team they should have beat by like 60 or anything like that. But, it was definitely a little bit shocking to see that it was that close and, a wake-up call if nothing else.
And yeah, Cole's right. Gray, your Wildcats also struggled with Western Carolina on Thursday. That one so far ago that it feels like it was last week. But, I mean, that is a thing that happened.
I don't even want to talk about it. They sold me one of my bets this weekend, so between them and Houston, I'm ready to publicly stone both of the programs. Um, the you know I want to bring up I know Ed talked a little bit about the Michigan game. I want to bring that into a little bit further context because I know Michigan plays Texas this weekend. And to be blatantly honest with you, I think Texas is going to give Michigan absolute fits all the way across the board. I think Michigan looked so bad offensively. 7 targets for 19 yards receiving for Michigan on the day. It's unbelievable. And the worst part for Michigan in this game is how bad their offensive line looked. A team whose their offensive front and defensive front is usually the strength of this team, and they let Fresno, who has a very, very small defensive line in comparison to other teams that they're going to play on their schedule, absolutely push them around. And it doesn't make any sense to me. I know Michigan has a really, really great defense, but I think Texas is going to evaporate Michigan's offense on Saturday.
So that game is weird for me because Texas blew out Colorado State 52-0. Obviously the offense looked great. Ewers was great. They got Arch Manning some snaps, which I'm worried. Maybe my hot take here is that for those who watch basketball, I think Arch Manning is slowly becoming Boban in terms of whenever he comes on the floor and on the field, it's like it overshadows everything else that's happening just because there's someone else who is freakishly different than everybody else on the field at the same time. Boban being 7'8" and 400 pounds, Arch being a Manning. So I worry that he's actually becoming a gimmick at this point, but that won't matter against Michigan. My concern for this Michigan game with Texas is when I look at the two teams, I think the two best players are both Michigan Wolverines and Will Johnson and Mason Graham, who is an absolute freakazoid at D tackle. Your boy Jake Majors is going to have his hands full with those interior D linemen that Michigan boasts. They're some absolute game wreckers, but the Michigan offense, obviously, they don't have a quarterback. That's concerning. So I'm not sure what they'll be able to do offense wise, but it's going to be an interesting game because it's big, like clash of styles. So I'll be interested to see how it goes. That first quarter is going to really mean it's really going to tell me a lot in terms of how that game will go, but should be an interesting game nonetheless. Cole brings up Poku. That hurts. I was a big Poku guy.
I stand. I don't even want Alexander Pokachevsky. Poku. Yeah, we got off a little bit off topic there. A little bit hard not to. But yeah, I'm excited for that game. I don't know. I don't think Michigan's going to be able to keep up. I think it's a weird line. I think that line should probably move to 7.5 if it hasn't already before kickoff, and if not more. They're going to have their hands full. I'll be curious to see if we get a little bit of a quarterback rotation if at Michigan, if the guy struggles a little bit. I think we're all shocked that we didn't get to see Alex Orji last week. I think that was definitely a shock to me. And he was the guy I expected and didn't really suspect otherwise. So yeah, there's a lot going on there, and I think it's going to be a good test for Texas, and not something that should take lightly. But should they do what they should do, it should probably be a pretty convincing win.
Yeah, no orgy last week. I do apologize to Davis Warren. I was not familiar with your game. And he was, I think, 15 of 25, and 8 of his completions were to Colston Loveland. And I believe 90 of his 120 passing yards were also to Colston Loveland. So the tight end being a big mismatch that they're looking to exploit, and the receivers they basically forgot about. It's kind of like Notre Dame last year. The receivers, they're just kind of out there for cardio. We're looking for tight end and big dudes and running the football. I was listening to Joe Klatt earlier today. He said it reminded him of early stage Jim Harbaugh teams like that 2015, 2016 team. Most notably known for the He has trouble with the snap punt against Michigan State, which was all-time hilarious. But I can kind of see that. And if that's the Michigan that shows up on Saturday, I expect Texas to win. But it's kind of like Texas walking into Alabama last year. You just don't know until you see it. And I'll be honest, I feel like a touchdown is too many points. If it gets 7.5, I might bet Michigan because I think that's too many points at home.
I don't know, Ed. I really think that Texas is gonna, and I'm not a Texas homer like you. I really think Texas is gonna come out and give them an absolute hurting. So it's really, really shocking for me to hear you say that they even stand a chance. But we'll see. We'll see.
That's why they play the games, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Ed, I have to bring this up. Cole messaged it earlier. Noah Fafita and the connection to McMillan. I mean, or not McMillan. Yeah, is it McMillan?
Yes, McMillan. Tataroa
Hey.
McMillan. Mr.
Yeah.
300 himself. He was almost Mr. 305. I could almost call him Mr. Worldwide after that performance. He had 304.
Yeah, 304, 4 tutties on 10 receptions. This Arizona offense, I don't think has skipped a beat from where it was before. I know it was a little bit shaky in that first half, but they got things rolling, and it's going to be another exciting year. So I'm excited to watch this offense cook a little bit.
Tell you what, New Mexico's quarterback Dampier, he's got a little juice to him. I mean, we saw it last week whenever they played Montana State. He was giving them some juice there in the first half when they took that big lead. And we saw it this week. They were hanging with Arizona there for a half. So I do like the juice that Bronco Mendenhall is bringing there. But yeah, this Arizona squad, it's going to be fun to watch. I don't know if they have the defense to hold up. I do trust Dwayne Akita, their DC, but lack of talent, if you will.
Final thing I got on our little upsets and close calls. Texas Tech versus ACU. You talked about it a little bit. Texas Tech spends $10 million worth of upgrades on their stadiums. Seems that they did not upgrade any part of this team in the portal or in the offseason. What an absolute shame for this university. Can we get them a new coach and bring some pride back to Tech?
Hey, don't hate on my guy, Joey McGuire. I said this on the Big 12 preview. They are going to be an absolutely awful favorite, and they're going to be a great underdog because they go for it on fourth down more than just about anybody else on the planet. And whenever it works, it's going to go amazing. And when it doesn't, they can lose to quite literally anybody. And what happens? They almost lose and should have lost ACU. And then there will be games this year they're playing, Iowa State, or they're playing Utah, or they're playing K-State. And they go 6 of 7 on fourth down, and they're going to win, 41-30. Like, that's just going to be kind of what they are. They're awful favorites. I know Reid has the win total over. We approach Texas Tech completely different ways because Reid just wants to even it out, let the variance play itself out, and it'll probably average out to 8 wins. Meanwhile, I'm like, I am freakishly terrified of what this team can do in a given week. I would just rather bet them on the games that I want to bet them. But Reid, any thoughts on your Red Raiders almost losing their win total in week 1?
Very concerned. Nothing good comes from Lubbock, apparently. It was very concerning. I don't have a whole lot to say. I'm not feeling great about my some of my preseason plays. I know it's only week 1, but that one is a little bit of bet regret there. It could still go over, but not a very inspiring. Allowing that many points to Abilene is a choice. Feels almost hard to do. So yeah, there's definitely some concern for me.
Cole, I will answer your question. The only things that run through Lubbock are batteries that get thrown at the opposing players, tortillas that get thrown on the field after a kickoff, and alcohol that flows through everybody, including 19-year-olds, one of which happened to run over 4 ACU staffers, 2 players, and 2 coaches, including their head coach, and sent them to the hospital because, Grayson is flashing the picture. 19-year-old runs into the team bus and sends 4 of them to the hospital. That is Lubbock, Texas for you. So I hope that dude is ready to learn jail time, buddy, because that's where you're headed.
That poor kid's parents and that $50,000 Ford King Ranch that they bought him F-250. That is an absolute shame right there. That is an absolute shame. Let me tell you something, young man. We got Uber these days. If you're broke, text mommy and daddy, okay? Goodness gracious.
If they can afford that truck for you, they can afford a $20 Uber ride.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Just kind of hilarious. Imagine what they would have done if Abilene Christian actually pulled the upset. Maybe even the sober fans would have run over their team bus on the way out of town, because they drove in from Abilene. That's not a super far drive, a couple hours probably. So no plane needed. They were just driving. They would have. I'm worried the people of Lubbock might have harassed them the entire way back to Abilene.
Yeah, what a nothing's worse than trying to get home after a night game and the bus breaks down or somebody hits the bus and now you're extra time late now. I mean, that's just brutally rough. We know about those late nights on the bus. That's for dang sure.
Some of them later than others, but yes, my last memory of a late bus ride was in Monticello, Arkansas, and there's no need to explain what happened that night. Some week 2 games that I've got my eye on here. Obviously, Texas, Michigan. That's going to be an 11 a.m.er. That's big noon kickoff on Fox. Arkansas, Oklahoma State. Grayson, that's up in your neck of the woods. Oklahoma State coming off a big win against South Dakota State, but they're only favored by 7.5 here against Arkansas, who was projected to have 4.5 wins before the year. So not sure where we go with that one. That's going to be an interesting game, though.
I thought Arkansas looked really, really good. I know they were playing Pine Bluff, but they put up 70 points, and their receiver picked up the Pine Bluff cheerleaders in the process. So it'll be interesting. I know Arkansas has a beefy D line, so I don't think that. I think that's probably why this line is so tight. It's because Oklahoma State wants to run the ball, and this Arkansas front six is a pretty decent front six. I mean, they're not spectacular, but they're no slouches. That's for sure.
I genuinely don't know who would win in a game between Arkansas Pine Bluff and Bishop Sycamore. Like, I watched some of those clips, and it was the absolute worst football I have ever seen in my entire life. Taylor Green, the quarterback for Arkansas, good athlete, but holy smokes, it looks like he was going against like JV high school kids. Like, it was some of the worst effort, and I mean, I didn't not even know what I was watching. So, I don't know if the Lions adjusted to the fact that they played, School of the Blind here, but that was some of the worst football I've ever seen. And, for that reason, I feel like I almost have to take Oklahoma State.
I would invite you to go watch the film of Stephen F. Austin against a school called North American. They played an NAIA school, and they beat them so bad they had 5-minute running clocks in the second half. 5-minute running quarters for an entire half of football.
At least they know what they are. It's NAIA. They knew what was coming. They expected what was happening. But Pine Bluff calls himself a Division I team. I mean, it was absolutely. I mean, we all could go play right now in our current shape at Pine Bluff and make an impact for that team, which is probably saying something.
I mean, yeah, their uniforms even looked like it was like a bad ripoff on like Team Creator. Like it looked like those old school Russell uniforms. Which glad Georgia Tech no longer wears Russell. I remember that in the Paul Johnson days. They had that stupid R on their shoulders. It's like, oh, this is gross. And they were running the triple option. It's like, why would anybody go there? This is like the least amount of aura that any program could possibly have.
Oh, jeez. Hey, Ed, we have I know we're gonna do a deeper dive later this week on the week 2 schedule, but I know we have your favorite game of the year is this weekend in El Asico. So I know you're excited about that.
Gonna get my maracas out, sombrero. We will be locked in at 2:30, regardless of the noon slate. Best believe it's a CBS game, so we'll get our guy Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson up there. So it's gonna be big game, big crew, El Asico. It's gonna be a spectacular game. Total's 36. Iowa's favored by 2.5. I expect Iowa State to win this game. I think they're just straight up the better team, but Iowa did hang 40 last week, which is something they did not do all of last year. And only the 5th time they've done that in 3 years, or 3rd time they've done that in 5 years. I'm sorry, got it flipped around. So generational day by that Iowa offense, and at least they'll be playing actual competition this week.
Yeah, I agree.
Then some other games that we've got a little bit further down the slate. We have a conference game, Michigan State against Maryland. Maryland's favored by 8. Michigan State looked god-awful against an FAU team that I think is god-awful. So not sure what to think about that one. We got UTSA and Texas State and what should be a banger down there in San Marcos. Expect all the points total there 61. I'll be on over. As we get into the night slate, I think probably the best game is going to end up being that Tennessee and NC State game. That one's at 6:30. That's going to be in Charlotte at the Panther Stadium. So that'll be an interesting one. I probably won't care too terribly much about it, but we've got that one. Then Colorado, Nebraska, the remix from last year's game. Should be an interesting one. I expect Nebraska to be much better. Colorado looked awful this week against North Dakota State. If they make a lot of those same mistakes that they did against North Dakota State, I think Nebraska, even with true freshman quarterback, I think Matt Rule is a significantly better coach than Deion Sanders. I think we could be looking at a pretty big win here for Nebraska. I don't know if either of y'all have any feelings on any of the other games, but would love for you to share them.
I'm really, game of the week, I think for me is Nebraska, Colorado. I'll have to dive into that one a little bit more. My natural lean all off season was I think Nebraska is going to kill them. They came out and had a good week 1 performance. Colorado is, pretty much the same old Colorado that we expected against NDSU. But as we dive into it a little bit more, if that line's at 7.5, I might lean Colorado plus 7.5. We'll have to see. I'm just excited to watch it. I almost don't want to even touch it. Just watch as a football purist. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's going to be, can't believe I'm saying, imagine us, 3 or 4 years ago talking about Colorado, Nebraska being game of the week. But here we are, and it's wonderful, and I'm here for it.
You also have a sleepy game at 9 p.m. It's going to be 2 programs that are both going to be rough teams, but you got a 1-point spread sitting in Texas Tech versus Washington State, so that could be a banger late night.
Take the over.
Over. Points.
65's the line right now, so I think the points are going to be there.
Yeah, I got it at 65.5 today. I am on that one, and you can expect to see it on my picks, which went completely defeated this week. Both of y'all swept the board. I got nothing. I got 0 points. So going to be playing some catch up here throughout the year, but hey man, that's life. I also lost actual money this week. I went 4-6. So thanks to Colorado State for not participating. Also appreciate, golly, if y'all have a second, I will just run through my losses this week because I think that's entertaining stuff. I lost over in LSU USC. That sucked. Wyoming +7 was in fact a donation. They lost by 40, didn't score until 1 second left against Arizona State. That's on me. That was one of the ones I gave out. That was bad. I lost Michigan State -13. Me and Reid were both there. That was bad. That was not good. I will absolutely apologize for that. And I'd also like Aiden Childs to apologize for that atrocity that he played in that game as well. That red zone pick he threw in the 3rd quarter, he was going on an out to try to extend the lead. Instead, it's returned all the way back the other way, turns a 13-point game into the final of 6. So awful stuff by them. And then I also lost Jacksonville State in the first half. They got beat by I think 30. So none of my wagers that I lost were particularly close. But hey, that's gambling. We'll keep pushing it next week, I guess.
Absolutely.
Reid, you went like what 7-3 this week? 7-2.
7-2. You know, my win totals are not looking so hot, but you know, I guess you can call me a game time player. I guess I do better when it's week to week. So hoping to ride that momentum and stay hot here. But already got 5 or 6 plays for this week, and might stand pat there. We'll see if some lines move, but feeling good about where I'm at for sure.
And Grayson 3-0 on the pod with your plays. That's much better than you did at any point last year.
And I was 11 for 12 in my 12-leg parlay. Thank you, Houston, for losing to UNLV, you sick fucks.
Hey, I'll tell you the same thing that I told you off air. You know how much they pay you to go 11 out of 12?
$0. But my $1 bet was about to turn into $6.68 if Houston would have just, played some ball, just played a little football every now and then. How did we do? Sorry, we could probably talk about this next week. Yeah, you know what? Let's talk about our ESPN pick'ems when we make picks later in the week. We can tell everybody about where we're sitting.
Okay, yeah, I like that. This is a good point to wrap for the actual pod, so we can edit it out. But if you're hanging out with us on YouTube, we might hang out for an extra couple minutes and watch some of DJU's disaster class here. He threw a pick a couple of minutes ago that led to another Boston College score, so that's a lot of fun. But appreciate you guys listening, and as always, if you're listening, hit subscribe, and always thanks for listening for us. So until next time, be the man in the arena. Go make some money. Peace out. All right, Cole, you're live in the chat. DJ, yeah, McDonald's. Would you like your fries? Would you like your fries, sir? Can I get you some ketchup, sir? Just bad stuff.
Oh jeez.
Great, we've got some Winters representation in the chat.
That would be my father. Hanging out.
Much appreciated. Tonight. Love that.
Let's go. Oh man.
Congrats to your Irish, sir. Well done. Well done. I'm very glad they beat up on those Ags. We did love to see it.
We did love it. Gosh, I can't believe how bad Florida State's playing. Holy moly.
I simply can't, like, this is, I knew what DJU was. The fact that it's this bad, like, he's at least won 9 to 10 games everywhere he's been. This is, they might not get to a bowl at this rate.
This makes me feel so bad as a Notre Dame fan because we celebrated so hard when Trevor Lawrence was hurt and DJU played and we beat Clemson. We celebrated so hard beating Clemson in that game. And now I realize that game was a charity game. That was a Make-A-Wish Foundation episode. What a sad, sad day to be an Irish fan this is.
I mean, hey, I wouldn't complain too terribly much. You're sitting in good shape at this point.
Yeah. Pull the 5 seed in the playoffs, gives us a game against Boise State would be my guess. Gives us a G5.
I don't know if Boise's got the defensive juice, man. They gave up 45 to Georgia Southern.
You think it's mental?
Granted, Jeansy ran for 270 on his own, which was pretty sick, but 270 and 6 touchdowns. That was incredible.
Yeah. I like Coastal. Coastal's going to be solid.
I hate their coach.
Really good.
I cannot stand their coach. Tim Beck used to be Texas's offensive coordinator, and he stinks.
Yeah, they looked really, really good.
As we're sitting here, it's 21-6. Gray, do you have the game up? Do you have Florida State up?
I do not.
Okay, so it's 21-6 with 6 minutes left in the third.
Yeah, it's rough out here in these streets. So, oh man. Well, I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go sit down and finish the rest of this game. Potentially, might be. Could be a bangerang.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Cole, what is OU only had 1 third down conversion? We talking about different OUs here? I mean, they kind of steamrolled Temple.
But they did lose Farouk. They lost their best receiver to a broken foot, out for 6 to 8 weeks.
That is tough. And then the offensive line, like it was what it was. It was Temple, but I still have some concerns with that. Still a very new group.
I think that for OU, first year in the SEC, I think making a bowl game would be a really promising season for them. Genuinely.
They should be able to get that. Double pass for Florida State and caught. Hey, look at that.
Yep.
Gray, they ran
oh, you're good. Talk to me.
Florida State ran your trick play from NCAA 25 earlier.
That's bread and butter, baby. That's bread and butter is what it is.
It's unfortunate that unfortunately their quarterback is DJU and he overthrew the deep ball.
He's selling his career. This trade over change right here was really rough for him. He should have stayed at Oregon State and ran the ball. Would have been better for his career.
And we've got a Florida State tud. All right, 21-12.
All right. Well, they're going to go for 2 right here. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to go finish watching this game. I'm locked in wholeheartedly.
Sounds like a plan. Looks like Reid's out of here too. So we'll wrap this thing up here. Call it a night. What day you want to do this again? You want to do it Wednesday or you want to go Thursday before the NFL game?
I'd prefer to do it Wednesday, personally.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
If that works. Then we could do it before any. Is there got to be Thursday? No, there's not any Thursday night college games, is there? Only Friday night?
No, just the NFL. You got Ravens Chiefs that night.
Ooh, we get to get into some Triple G this week just for Cole so he can pick his fantasy team properly.
Papa Cole hanging out with the Cowboys.
Am I going to draft in any of these other leagues? I feel like we should be drafting in one of these leagues.
Hey, I just did a draft yesterday for one of my leagues. I went out of the second pick. Got to say, did not love my options.
Are we going to draft in the Dirty Dozen, or what are we doing there? Nope.
Yeah, we need the commish to.
Commissioner has not activated our league. What a shame.
Yeah, we're just big chilling, which has been nice because that means we waited out all the preseason injuries, things of that nature.
Oh yeah, I didn't have to draft Purcell. Poor guy.
Oh my God, getting shot, and then apparently he was strapped too, and then he shot the dude who shot him.
Yeah, as he should.
What a dog.
As he should. I wouldn't walk around the streets of San Francisco wearing a Rolex and not having a strap on me. Are you crapping me?
How do you not have? If you're a freaking NFL dude, how do you not have freaking security detail? I just walk around going to an autograph signing. What are we doing?
Dude is just, he had no idea.
Yes, Cole, we are talking about your league.
Yeah, Commish hasn't picked a drafting point for us. What a poor guy. So, all right, Ed. I'm logging off, man.
All right, dude. Let's get out of here. We'll do it. We'll do it again Wednesday night.
Beautiful. I'm all for it.
All right.
See ya.
See y'all later.